So I want to ask you a few questions, Jem. Here's the first one. Is there an example that you'd be willing to share of how God used pain as his megaphone to alert you to your need for help? How did God use crisis, confrontation, or catastrophe to try to get your attention?
I had a hard time deciding on this one. Every list of things BJ spoke of today in family pain and consequences, I think I've lived them all. But the one I thought that what I'd speak of today was about 13 years ago, I guess. I was a Christian. I was saved. I was not surrendered to Jesus. I wasn't in the Word. I was doing my own thing and had lots of unrepentant sin still in my life. But I went through a season where God stripped me of everything, all my identity, all my coping mechanisms. He took them all. First, my son got into drug use and drug selling, and our relationship ended at that point. Then I developed fibromyalgia, which came with, yes, a lot of physical pain, but also depression, anxiety, fatigue, and probably the worst for me was brain fog and loss of intellect, loss of ability to communicate verbally. And that led to me losing my job, which I loved. I was a Starbucks manager, loved my job. I was good at it. I was high achieving, like with everything in life. I was a perfectionist. So I felt like my entire identity was gone. I then turned into dog rescue. I founded my own dog rescue, which eventually was also stripped from me when my board of directors secretly met and decided to oust me for my own rescue due to my religiosity that I had put into the website. So that was gone. Next, I woke up and my husband of 11 years had left in the middle of the night, packed his clothes and flew back to the United States, never to be seen again. He left me with, all in my name, tens of thousands of dollars of credit card debt. My credit rating was destroyed and I lost that income. My daughter and I were living on $800 a month, couldn't keep our home, which meant we had to rehome my beloved dogs and move out of town to a dumpy little basement suite. So my identity of high achieving, living the good life was gone. I was now broke and poor and living a rough life. At that point, my bulimia that I'd coped with life for a long time went crazy. My depression went off the charts. Definitely suicidal. So there I was.
Wow. In what ways did you try to ignore or deny your need to call out to God for his help? What kind of effects did denial have in your life?
I tried everything. Drugs, alcohol, sex, everything. Food addiction, of course. But I was going to church thinking I was doing fine. I went to my church every day. I was in every activity, every volunteer job there was. I did it, but I wasn't listening to God. I wasn't in the Word. I wasn't praying. I wasn't hearing his voice. I was just in for the community and the free Wi-Fi and the free heat, free coffee, free cookies. Yeah.
What was the moment you recognized you needed God's help and you called out to him? What led you to make that choice?
Funny enough, it was an automobile. Once Tasha and I had moved to this little basement suite out of town, my van broke. And that was a $2,000 bill. Ended up selling that for scrap metal and grocery money. And that was the last straw. My friend loaned me money to buy another car, and it broke, and that's another story. But at that point, I was flat on my face on the floor, bawling, crying out to God, how I think maybe Job prayed, just wailing like, God, how much more? I can't take it anymore. I can't do this anymore. You got to help me because I'm done. I'm lost. Yeah.
What did you come to learn about the character of God through calling out to him for help? How did calling out to the Lord for help impact your relationship with him?
Well, that was the story about this vehicle. My friend had offered me use of her car for a month when my van broke. So that was great. And then another friend came up and said, you know, I'm going to lend you $500 to buy a little beater car, and then you can get yourself to and from. So that was wonderful. So I bought a little old Volvo and started thinking, okay, I'm starting life again. Here we go. And then on Friday, my secretary friend had sent me, she called me and said, you know, do you need a car still? And I said, no, I'm all good. I fixed another problem. I got a car. And she said, Jem, are you sure you don't need a car? And I thought, well, that's really weird. Like, no, I've got a car, thanks, you know, whatever. I'll see you on Sunday, because we were going to meet up that Sunday for church, and then I think it was, I don't know, some concert, whatever. So I get up Sunday, go to church, start my new little Volvo, and bang, gone. That car's dead too. So that's when I lost it. That was it. Like, what more? What more can happen? So I laid on the floor and cried, and prayed, and cried some more, and prayed some more for hours. And like I said, God, you got to fix this. I'm done. I can't do it. So after that, I got myself together and I called my friend and said, can I still borrow that car? I need a car. And she said, Jem, sit down. So I sat down, and she goes, on Friday, an anonymous couple walked into the church and said, we have a financial gift for a single mom in the church who needs a car. And they met with the elders, and the elders all said, that's Jem.
Yeah.
So she called me and said, Jem, do you need a car? And I said, no. And so they told the couple, she doesn't need the car. So they looked for someone else to give the car to, and there was no one. So they were going to meet on Monday morning to reallocate this gift, and my car blew up. So when I called them, they realized, okay, she can have the car still, which would have been given away on Monday. So I was given $5,000 from people I'd never met.
Oh, wow.
In order to buy a car, and it ended up with $900 in the church account for any future problems that car would have made. So I found a beautiful little cute car, call it my God car, and it enabled me to be able to drive back and forth into town, to find a job, and to actually restart my life. But more importantly, it gave me a story. I've told that story many times of how God saw me in my deepest need and blessed me. It was such a amazing thing. And I later found out that this couple, they hadn't been wealthy. It wasn't extra money they had sitting around. They've been saving for years for their first holiday. And God told them, no, this money is for this specific reason. Give it up.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Last question for you here, Jem. What kind of encouragement would you give to someone who's feeling the weight of crisis, confrontation, or catastrophe, and is trying to find a solution or relief without calling out to God for his direction and help? What would you say to them?
Oh gosh, don't do it. Don't even try. I wasted so much time when God was whispering lovingly to me and I ignored it. When he was tapping me on the shoulder lightly and he ignored it, I waited to be smacked over and over again with his 2x4 because he didn't want to leave me in the life I was in. And just get into the Word, abide in him, ask him for help. He has such good gifts waiting for us if we'll only just ask.
Amen.
Don't be
That's
stubborn.
awesome.
Don't control things. Just,
That's awesome.
turn it over to him.
Jem, thank you for doing this. It's so awesome.